Rabbi Chia bar Abba Chalash. Rabbi Chia, the son of Abba, was weak and he was going to die. He went to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan. Amar lehu, Chavivin alecha yisurim. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rabbi Chia, do you like this suffering? And he said, not them and not their reward. So Amar le, Rabbi Yochanan told him, Havli yadach, give me your hand. Yavle yadeh ve'okme. He gave him his hand, and Rabbi Yochanan made him, revived him.
Revived him. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What does that mean, do you like suffering? Nobody likes suffering. So why are you asking a question? Chavivim alecha, all these afflictions due to you. What he meant?
He meant that if you suffer here and you get it from love from God, and then in Olam Haba, in the world to come, you're going to get the reward. So are you willing to suffer for that reward?
Which means, although the righteous generally accept suffering with love, that is only where it does not cause neglect of Torah study. So in all the cases, the suffering was so severe, so serious, that it prevented Torah study. So that's the reason the rabbis who were affected did not want any part of it. So let's review what Natan just said. He said it was a great Amoraic rabbi, his name is Rabbi Yochanan, and he became weak. I'm sorry, Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Chia bar Abba. So Rabbi Yochanan went to visit him. When he realized that he's weak, he asked him a question, how serious you take this suffering? So now look carefully at this and understand the balance. What exactly the balance here? The balance here is in one hand, the value of study Torah. On the other hand, person who physically suffer have a hard time to focus in study of Torah. So as much as a righteous person can accept upon himself suffering, but the other hand is that it may cause him to reduce the amount of him seriously study the Torah. So in that case, this Rabbi Chia bar Abba reached a point that the suffering was so great, and as a result he was not able to study the Torah properly, that when Rabbi Yochanan came to him, he said, bring me your hand, which you can take in many different ways. You can say that, give me your hand, he meant to say, like magician, magic. He hold his hand and he healed him. Others will say that maybe it's applied to prayer. What? I don't hear you. It's either giving me your hands physically, or give me your hands, meaning pray that the suffering will stop. In other words, there is always a fine line, a balance between how much in our language God expecting a person to suffer. Now it's a different variation of that story. It's another one, it's talk about different rabbi, the opposite way. It's Rabbi Yochanan was here, Rabbi Yochanan Chalash. Al egabe Rabbi Chanina Amar lei. Rabbi Chanina came to him and said, how do you accept this suffering? And he said, no, I don't want them or their reward. He asked him, give me your hand. Rabbi Yochanan gave his hand, and Rabbi Chanina revived him. Yeah. So the Gemarah asked, Amai,
what? If Rabbi Yochanan, he healed Rabbi Chia, well, he couldn't heal himself. Why did he need Rabbi Chanina?
In other words, why did Rabbi Yochanan need Rabbi Chanina's help? Let Rabbi Yochanan revive himself, because if he is the Gemarah did not pose this just as another phase. They take it seriously, and they say that if he's such a capability, what? So they said the answer is Amrei,
אין חבוש מתיר עצמו מבית האסורים.
which means
someone in jail. He can't release himself.
In other words, a captive person,
You can't
a captive cannot release himself from prison.
need another one.
Which means if you are, for example, a medical doctor in that sense, you can help other people, but sometimes you yourself need someone else to do something for you. Yes?
So, can a Kohen, this is a little bit off the subject, but can a Kohen bless himself? Can a Kohen provide, you go to a Kohen, you're having a problem, you go to a Kohen and you say, I need a blessing, or you do a blessing for the community. Can a Kohen provide a blessing for himself, or does he need another Kohen to do that?
Basically, it's not just the Kohen, and anyone needs someone else. It's not that he can provide for himself. They said, even we studied this morning about King David, that when he sat in his court as a king, as a ruler, he has Mephibosheth, his teacher, that constantly David asked him afterward, did I rule properly, did I did it right? And it was always a big dialogue, a big discussion afterward, if it was proper or not proper, and he accepted upon himself all different challenges from his teacher Mephibosheth. Which goes to teach us that even King David, the king of Israel, when it's come to have some type of high authority, he has someone above him. So in that sense, when it's come to blessing or healing or guidance, even a Kohen needs someone else. It's always those prayers that the Kohen Gadol made with the other people, even for himself. So, yes.
So, but in the past few weeks, we've been reading Torah portions about how the sanctuary was consecrated, and initially Moshe Rabbeinu installed the priests. He did the sacrifices, but after that, particularly on Yom Kippur, we read that the Kohen first makes the sacrifices on behalf of himself. So how is that different? How is making the sacrifices for expiation for yourself different from what you've just said, which is very clear?
What happened in the offering, the Kohen needs to first and foremost free himself from the sin. So in that sense, since he represents everyone, he free himself first, and that's the purpose of sacrifice. What?
It's not himself in that sense.
Yes, in that sense it's not himself. Good, Nathan. What he's saying is that in order for him to be the proper, in our language, power of attorney of everyone else, he basically confesses and free himself from his own sins, and then he went ahead and did for everyone else. So it was a process. If you look carefully at Yom Kippur literature, you see that you have one stage, which is the Kohen, the bow down for the Kohen who confesses, and then for the community, and then for everyone else in the world. Read.
Rabbi Eliezer
Chalash. He just came from Israel. Okay. Al legabei Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan came and visited him. Chaza, please.
Chaza da'ava ka'agane b'bayit afel. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Eliezer was sitting in his house, and there was no light.
Very dark room. He saw him being in a house very dark.
גליאל לדרעב ונפל נהרה. Rabbi Yochanan, his arm was always covered, and when he showed his arm, all the light came on.
So in other words, it's like a magic. It's like radiant. The skin of Rabbi Yochanan was radiant, and as a result, suddenly they have. Okay, next.
He was the most nice person. And then he saw Rabbi Eliezer crying. So he asked him, Amai kabachit, why are you crying? If it's because you didn't learn enough Torah that you think you're supposed to, Shaninu. We learned in the Mishnah that both one that gives that in offerings that he gives a lot and one that gives a little, they're equally pleasing to God. So even if you learn a little Torah, it's equal as if you do a lot, but you need a wish to do as much as you can. But if you do a little, that's all you can do. So that's equally pleased to God that someone that could do a lot and he does a lot.
So in other words, when he was able to be much better, in a sense that he was radiant, healing, and he was able to do much, the other rabbi felt like, I'm much lower, and in that sense he cried. So he, in a way, comforted him, and he said to him, why you worry that you don't study enough? Like we always sometimes carry a feeling that there are people who study more than we can. So they said, look, we do what you can, and both, the offering of one who gives much and the one who gives little, are equally pleasing to God as long as it's come from the heart of a person. And then the next point,
Rabbi Yochanan is asking him why is he crying. So he's giving an example. If it's for Torah, he gave him. He just said that it's okay. You don't need to cry for if you think you didn't learn enough Torah. So he said if you're crying because you don't have enough food, enough money, right? That Rabbi Elazar was really
he
poor.
was in a house that it was dark, so it was not enough. It was poor, right? He was a poor person, right? So he said,
if you that also is not a reason to cry because not every person could have two tables.
Not everyone have the ability to have the both world, the world of spirituality and the world of financial stability. So not everyone reward both.
Money.
But Rabbi, why is that okay? Why is it okay that some people have both worlds and some people have one or the other?
So you don't need to cry for that. You don't.
Why?
Because he has that, and God gave you Torah and not money, and for the other person He gave only money and didn't give him enough knowledge that God does it there's someone who gets two and someone that you don't need to cry if you have only the Torah.
But we're human beings, and if you see that somebody has a lot of success, and maybe your children are sick, or maybe you don't have enough money, or maybe you only have enough money to feed, you don't have enough to send them to a good school, and you see somebody else does, isn't it natural that you would feel bad about that?
No.
No, that's.
I think it all depends on the character of the individual as well.
Correct.
One can be one who's very humble, thanks Hashem for what he has. If you're without, you can either look at it as glass empty or glass full. Your life, and I think those who are glass half full are humble and are more fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this also the principle of God gives everyone the portion that they're going to get? So,
in other words, very rarely, what he tried to say, person receive both, everything. That's very rarely. In general, there are two important points. First, the preceding story about Rabbi Yochanan, this great rabbi that had the ability to heal people, hold their hand and make them, okay, or radiance toward his skin and make the light in the house and all kind of nice stories, is a story about Rabbi Yochanan's children. What happened to Rabbi Yochanan's children, you remember?
10 of his children died in his life.
Yes, he lost 10 of his sons. So in other words, we don't know the full story of everyone. So Rabbi Lazar, that live in poverty in the dark house, right, in one hand, Rabbi Lazar maybe is financially poor, but he has a family. So in a sense, there is always an account before God of why things happen in a certain way and what's happening to everyone. You don't know the full story, but when he tried to comfort him, he tried to say, look, you do what you can. Not everyone receive both tables, you know, etc., etc. V'im mishum b'nei. If you are crying because of your children who died, which is, he lost his, you know, he said, Dain Garma da Asira Bir, which is?
This is a bone of the 10th son that I lost.
Right.
He took the bone of his last son after he died. He took the bone to remember. So he showed him that bone.
In other words, it's a very long story, but we try to make it simple. When Rabbi Yochanan lost his 10 sons, he wanted always to remember, because God gave him a lot of gifts. According to the text, he was, first of all, it was very beautiful, the way that he looked. He has a very big magic way of doing things, healing people, doing all kind of things. So he always wants to remember that, so he carry, which is hard to understand, but he carry one bone of his last son to remember any time he gets to the state of arrogance or feeling good about himself, to remember the other part of his life. But anyway, he tried to comfort him that everything in Hashem's way has a reason and has a balance. Omar lei, so Rabbi Lazar said to Rabbi Yochanan,
not because of the Torah that I think, not because of that I'm poor, and not because of your 10 sons that died. I was crying when you showed your arm, and when you make light, so I saw you, and I saw that you're very beautiful. So
I'm crying in the account of this beauty, the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan, which was wrote in the earth, that I am, in a sense, crying. It's something like he couldn't get the point of that Rabbi Yochanan was the most beautiful person. So Rabbi Yochanan responded, he said to him, Amar lei.
He said that if all this beauty is going after the death, it just goes, it doesn't...
Al da vadai kabachit. You know what you should cry? That soon both of us going to die, and all this beauty is in vain, right? That's you should get. Ubachut ravayu, and they both cry, right? Adehache ve'ache amar lei. In the meantime, Rabbi Yochanan asked him, Chavivim alecha yisurim, are these afflictions dear to you? Amar le Rabbi Lazar said to him, lo hen velo scharan. Neither they nor the reward. I don't want to get all of that. You promise me those who suffer have a reward. I don't want the reward and I don't want the suffering. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan said to him, Havli yadach, which is hard to understand. He said, give me your hand. Yehavli yadei ve'ok. May Rabbi Lazar gave him his hand, and Rabbi Yochanan revived him. Right? So what we learned so far?
First, what is the meaning of Havli yadach?
Give me your
give
hand,
me
yes.
Your hand. Why not give me your foot? No, give me your hand.
Right. What is give me your hand? Right.
So it said we're going to the Chag Pesach, and over there it says Ki bechozek yad tzia Hashem mitzrayim.
In Passover, does Hashem have a a strong hand that He redeemed the Jewish people from Egypt? Yes.
So Hashem doesn't have a hand, but it's only for us.
It's a human language.
A human language for us to understand. So yad, hand, is strength. It's all the strength. And whenever you feel weak, he actually took the hand, and when he held his hand, it actually gives him the strength. And strength that comes from the hand, and then becomes strong, and it's
okay. Next. Now, now we talk about the affliction of financial nature. So we have another text that said, Rav Huna tekifu le400 dani dechamra. Rav Huna had 400 barrels of wine that soared, which means they turned to vinegar. Imagine if he was rich, he had 400 bottles of wine, and all of a sudden, boom. Al gabe Rav Yehuda achua de Rav Sarah Chasida de Rabbanan. The rabbis came and talked to him, to visit him. V'amar la Rav Ada bar Rava v'Rabbanan. There's different rabbis, different version who came and visited him. V'amru le, and they said to him, le'ayin mar b'milei, let master, which is Rav Huna, examine his affairs to determine the reason, the cause of this tremendous loss, right? It's a tremendous suffering of financial loss. So they want him as a great sage to search his soul to see what's the possible causes of this. Amar lehu, and he said to him, Micha shadnina beinaychu. Are you guys suspected me in your eyes that I did something wrong, that it's because I've sinned? Amrulei, they said to him, Micha shidkut shabrichu da v'dina belodina. They answer him like typical Jewish with the question. They said to him, you're going to tell us, is the Holy One, blessed is He, suspect of punishing without justice? They said that you're thinking that we're asking you that you make a self-search, and you said, oh, you're suspecting I did something wrong, but we ask you a question, do you think that God is doing something for no justice, for no reason, right? Which means that they did not propose the lost as the affliction of love, right? Because they knew that Rav Huna that's something wrong. Soon you see what. Amar lehu, and he said to them, if you guys, if anyone around this place, in this room, heard something about me that I must rectify, so let him speak. Amulei, so the rabbis responded to him and they said, Hachei shmi'alan. This is what we heard about you. What? De lo yahiv mar shabish ala risei. What did he do? This rabbi, what did he do? Did not give, no, you said.
He had a ris. A ris is a person that has, he's not, Rav Huna has a field, and to use the field, he brings someone that he
subcontractor.
Works,
he owns a field, and you have someone who
works, and he gets like 40% or something like that. So,
and he gets a portion instead of cash. He gave part of the car, part of the field. He gets as a payment. For,
bartering.
What?
Bartering. That's
bartering or part of
sharecropping.
Right.
That's really what it is.
A half, third, or quarter, take for himself, right?
So
in a walking in the vineyard, right, beside the wine, we share between this subcontract, right, the sharecropper and the owner, the branches pruned off the wine must also be divided between them. But what happened with him, he didn't divide it in that way. He basically gave him the portion of the general income, but not the portion that involved with the product itself, right? Amulei, Amar lehu, he responded to them and he said, Mishavikli mideminei, did he leave me any of them? Akagani vleikulei, he stole all of them from me. That is, look at far more that it's a rightful share, which means, why do you suspect him of stealing more than his share? Since you suspect someone at any event, you should suspect him rather than me. In other words, it was the whole issue of the proper payment for this subcontractor. So Amulei, so they said to him, Hainu de Amrinche, this is what the people was used to say, Batar ganav agno v'tamataim. What they said, no?
That steal from a thief and feel the taste of stealing.
What does that mean? Steal from the thief and feel the taste of stealing. What does that mean? To steal from a thief, it's also regarded as stealing. Even the guy was stealing, but if you steal from a thief,
Right.
it's still considering stealing, which means although Rav Huna harbored in a way legitimate claim that against this guy, the sharecropper, he was nevertheless not entitled to withhold from him the due share for the branches, right? So that's the story. Amar lehu, he said to them, Kabil na'alai de'ahiv na'alei. I accept upon myself to give him his share of the remaining branches. So, some say that thereupon a miracle occurred and the vinegar reverted to wine. That's one option. The others say, Iyakar chala, that the price of the vinegar rose, Vizdaban bidmei chamra, and the vinegar sold as the price of a wine.
So he took lemons and made lemonade.
Right.
So the steal from a thief is still stealing, is what you said.
Yeah.
In other words, if Bruce was taking funds from my account and I knew it, and then I had access to his account, and
No,
I
that's
took
yours.
That's yours. But if Mr. A stole
Sorry,
something, right, and you know that material is stolen material, right, and you steal it from him, right, so it's prohibited.
What's the difference between money and material, though? I mean,
No, it's not.
It's a difference. That's yours.
It's because he took from you and then you're just taking what was yours back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the same as stealing.
But
Because
let's say if something belongs to the government or the city, and you know Mr. A stole it from them, and you went ahead and you take something from what he already stole from them, right? So it's very hard to pursue you legitimately because he is the one who was the ganef, who stole it, right? By the same token, it's prohibited even that things were stolen materials. And you can say, oh, I didn't know that it's stolen, yes.
Well, if he steals your car, for example, you
That's
can take your
different.
car back, but you can't steal enough money from him to compensate you for your car, is what you're saying.
For example.
Right. Or if he stole your car, you can't steal his tractor.
For example.
Rabbi, is the underlying principle behind this story about that it's not okay to steal from a thief, or is it that in life we are repaid measure for measure?
Both.
good point.
So if we're repaid, but we know...
The Talmud always speak about the highest level of righteousness, those Amoraim, those great rabbis. That in a sense, Hashem did not wait for anything, He right away punished them. Even for the smallest things, smallest tiny things.
So,
Good old days.
for example, the story in Pirkei Avos that Hillel saw a skull in the water. He says, just as you killed, you in turn were killed, which seems to be an underlying theme in a lot of what we read in the Talmud. But how does that compare then with our knowledge that in this world, good things happen to bad people, and ultimately there will be an accounting, but it won't be in this world; it will be in the next world. Can you relate that concept to what we're reading here?
Before I answer, what do you want to say?
There's a full book. It's called Iyov.
Job.
Yeah.
Job. Yes.
Job. That it's all the book is talking about how God is. How could Iyov is talking to God and saying, "What? I was such good. Why did you punish me and not him?" And that all the book is talking about that, and why a righteous person is suffering, and why
good people,
not good people are getting good stuff.
That's right. In the end of the book of Iyov, Hashem took Iyov above this world and showed him a biggest picture, and he calmed him down. Which means suddenly he saw things that he never realized. You may speak about different life, you can speak about many different things, but the point is, when he sees the full picture, the biggest picture, he basically calmed down and accepted the situation. So, first and foremost, is the whole idea of we don't understand a lot of things. We don't know why and we don't understand. You can go by the idea that we are in a world of tikkun olam, the world of the end of the days of repairing. You can go by the idea that that's the whole concept of free will, is the idea that we have to make the choice and accepted God inscrutable will, even we don't understand God, we don't understand Holocaust, we don't understand a lot of things. Faith, yes, thank you. But here in this story, they want to tell us that God did things for a reason. It's in a way measure for measure. And when he rectified it, things are rectified, either miraculously or naturally, but it rectified somehow. But it's the idea that God is God of justice, that the idea that is a punishment and reward, as we said in Shema, all the time. And the idea that we are limited in our ability. Here the rabbis try to make some self-search, because they felt for him, there's so many, such a huge loss overnight, 400 barrels of wines, it's a huge, tremendous amount of loss. And the person standing all his field, all what he labored for who knows how many years in his life, all of a sudden turns sour. It's a tremendous agony for a person. So they try to make a self-search, and at the beginning he didn't accept. What do you find me wrong? And then when they self-search, they realized it was something to do with something.
So sometimes, according to God's will and God's justice, we are paid measure for measure in this world, and sometimes we are paid measure for measure in the next world, and we don't know why.
Correct.
Yeah.
Basically, the way that the Talmud describes is the righteous the person, the quickest the payment. Which means that for righteous people, the better, it happened right away. And you may say that that's one of the reasons why righteous people suffered here. Maybe. Tanya. So we taught in the Brisa. Abba Binyamin Omer, another rabbi said, Al shnei dvarim hayiti mitztaer kol yamai. All my days I took pain over two matters. Two things. Number one, Al tfilati sheteheh lifnei midati. I took pain over my prayer to ensure that it will be recited before my bed. Which means, in the sense, it's the Gemarah explained, אבל מיטתי שתהיה נתונה בין צפון לדרום, that my bed should be placed in length in the room from north to south. So since it's again, this is a little bit deep, but the Talmud explained that the divine presence is considered to be either to the east or to the west, depend how you. So it's proper to engage the marital relations pointing to either of these directions. So that's so he said that he explained that that I took pain over my prayer to ensure that it will be recited before my bed. So what is before my bed? It's not literally before my bed. Ella, he said, he meant to say, I just give you the abbreviation, that it should not be any separation. When a person talks to God, it's nothing intermediary, or it's nothing in between. It's a praying directly to God. So in that sense, they speak about praying while they are directly to God. And this Braita conclude by saying that it's a very important when we set up our place to pray, to contemplate in our mind that there is no separation, that it's like direct prayer to God, and always think if we are here to the east, or if we are the other side of the globe to the west. So that's the meaning. Since we talk about this Abba Binyamin, the sugya ended by saying, Abba Binyamin Omer, he also said something really frightening. He said, if the eye will be granted permission to see, a person, no creature, will be able to stand in face of the demons that surround it, which means that people surrounded by the mazikin, it's like in our language demons, they are not visible to naked eye. And Rashi explained, if one will be able to see all those in front of him, he will collapse from fright. So the translation of mazikim, literally harmful forces, but it's based on the Rashi that speaks equated mazikim with sheidim, with the demons. One of the famous Rashi speaks about the Noach, that when Noach took pairs to his ark, he took a pairs of in a sense, you can call it demons, sheidim. So he tried to say that when a person set up his prayer, especially before he go to sleep, he should be aware that he should have the kavanah, he should say the prayer properly, so they, in our language, they'll not disturbing or bother him during the time he is resting. But again, that's a very interesting statement of Abba Binyamin. Any questions?
That would imply, Rabbi, that these demons serve some purpose of the world.
Correct.
And what is that purpose?
What is that purpose, Nunatan?
Everyone that is doing such a bad thing that God doesn't want to, as if, do it by himself, the punishment. So he has people that do it, and they call not
entities.
people, like demons that do that.
So in other words,
They
if
do
the
the
world
punishment.
needs, if someone needs to get some type of punishment or reward or some type of afflictions, so in our language, God uses certain entities to create certain things. So in other words, there is a purpose even for those demons to do certain things in certain times.
Is that the evil inclination or the temptation?
The evil inclination, you can call it many different names. What?
Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu,
One of the
Yes,
great past chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Eliyahu, yes.
so he said there were soldiers that came to his house and asked for a blessing before they go to the army. So they said they want advice, a blessing, something. So he said in Parashat Vayishlach, it says that Yaakov he wanted to fight against Esau, and Esau demons fighted against him. So why didn't Chiyuvi, a good demon, why did he fight a bad demon? Had to fight against Esau. So he said that in the army, like sometimes when you send a person to fight, to go, sometimes you don't need a malach, an angel, because an angel does everything, whatever you say, exactly what you said and everything. And sometimes you need the demons, the shedim, because they don't exactly do what
They're not the robots. They not do exactly the things they do.
They do what's the bad, then we go. So
You give them the free will to do whatever they want. They can do a lot of things that it was not.
so for army, that's good.
So the point is that sometimes there is a very strong way of understanding that.
Can you
Yes,
explain
Larry.
something else in here? The whole north-south thing, aligning your bed. It says it'll produce male children, prevent miscarriage. That's something important that should be mentioned, shouldn't it?
So can you explain it?
Well, I mean, according to here, if you're facing east or west, you're in the divine presence. But if you're facing north-south, why would that produce male children? I mean,
Okay, so that's Kabbalah. But in very general, there is a full instructions in the Talmud, which we'll study in the future, how you pray and how you set up the bed. For example, when you're visiting a sick, you're not supposed to go around the person's head. You can be around his leg and the side of the sick person, but not around his head, because again, that's Kabbalah, but it's just to tell you that around the head is like the divine. And you are facing the divine when you are praying.
like Jewish feng shui almost.
in a sense, you are facing the Torah, you are facing the Jerusalem, you are facing the divine. So that's the way you should set up your bed. But further than that, it's really mystical part of Judaism. Thank you.